What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It is the weekly report. I don't know if this is something we're going to do every week, but I've been thinking about it a little bit, just different ways that I can kind of engage with the community in a different way. Because we talk about stuff in the Facebook group all the time. If you guys haven't checked it out, links are in the description below. But we talk about different things that happened, like, for example, this last week, Dwayne Haskins passed away, right? Kind of a weird situation. Apparently his car ran out of gas. I don't know. I don't want to dive too deep into that one. We don't know enough at this point, but kind of an interesting thing. We also talk sports. We also talk about the hobby. What's going on? Where are we going? What changes have happened? So I appreciate you guys coming out. As always, drop a like, subscribe if you guys haven't, and let's jump into it. So for this week on the weekly report, I'm going to start us off with some HGA news. If you guys don't know, HGA is a grading company, and Tyler Hitt, as you can see right here, Tyler Hitt is the guy who started the company. I'm going to tell you guys what happened. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit of what I'm hearing. True or not true, it's what I'm hearing. And then I'm going to give you guys kind of my take on it. I'd love to hear you guys' take. Drop it in the description, or sorry, in the comments down below. We appreciate you guys coming out as always. So Tyler Hitt was a big time part of this group. He started HGA. So you can see here that he is going to be stepping away. The company wouldn't be here without his knowledge and love for the industry. I'm not sure what that even means. Sad to see him go, but he will still be a part of the family. I'm confused. So I don't understand when people talk like this, because, like, what does a part of the family mean, right? Because people who are part of my family don't step down, right? Like, if you're a part of the family, you might go on vacation or something, right? But you're still going to be here. You're going to come back. I think they're just trying to say it's like not a big deal or whatever. And so Armstrong International, founded in 1900s, got our back. So you guys can read that over. Here's kind of my take on that. I'm going to leave this up for a couple seconds, but number one, the community, the hybrid grading approach, the HGA community is freaking out just a little bit. Not everybody, but a few people. Wondering if this means that the values of the cards are going to tank. Okay. The other thing that's going around is there's speculation that Tyler was embezzling or scooping money. And that's a part of the reason. Apparently a few employees were saying that. It's very much hearsay, speculative at this point. But it's weird that they're not saying that he was bought out. It's weird that they're not saying has sold his position. They're not saying things that would be indicative of someone selling out. Here's the other thing, and again, this is my take. HGA was very chatty for about a year. Okay, so they've been around for 18 months to 24 months, something like that. So about a year and a half ago to 2 years ago, very chatty. Tyler was putting videos out all the time, talking about how they were going to change the industry, everything like that. But for the past 6 months to a year, we haven't heard a whole lot from them. They used to do giveaways, they do all kinds of little things, but they just kind of tried them and then they stopped, right? There was no consistency. They also, when they first came out, said, HGA, where 30 days means 30 days, right? But now we're at a point where 30 days means 90 days. So as long as you skip every third day, it's correct. But, like, everything is taking a long time. And it's frustrating to me as a consumer, right? I'm someone who sent cards to them. Take that back. I sent a card to them because I wanted to try them out, and I've been very disappointed. I still haven't got my card back. It's been 5 months. So I tried to get in early, but the way that their system worked, people were sending multiple computers in, and so it was really hard for me to get in. And so I kind of gave up. And then when I heard it was just open, I sent in a PC card. So I actually sent in Adrian Peterson auto, little auto that I have of his, because I love Adrian Peterson. I just wanted it as a PC card. It's something I was going to share with you guys once it comes back, if it comes back. But when Tyler Hitt first came in, he talked about how PSA only cared about the money. PSA wasn't doing a good job. He didn't outright say these things, but if you read between the lines, it's what he was saying, is that they weren't for the consumer. They weren't for, the hobby, the industry, however you want to say it. And long story short, they fell short. right? It's not an easy thing to do to build a business, right? You got to build a business with great people, right? And having something where you say, we pledge to do this, dude, it doesn't matter if you don't do it, right? So they talked a big game. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with HGA over the next 6 months, year, 2 years, 5 years. But at this point, I'm not optimistic. I don't know who they're bringing it in. And you would think right here, it says HGA management team. We've added a resource. I mean, what, are we talking in code? Tell us who it is. Explain their background. 17 years of experience running companies. I mean, it sounds like they just brought in, a suit to do this, which could be okay, right? Because there's lots of people. Look at one great example I always like to use is T-Mobile, right? And they brought in their guy, and he turned T-Mobile around, and he was just a suit, but he created a culture. And T-Mobile is in an incredible position now, 5-10 years later, however long he was there. And that was John Ledger. But they're not even saying who they're bringing in. And so, again, it's going to be very interesting to see what HGA does. But if PSA does what I believe they'll do, I believe PSA is going to drop the cost of a PSA card to $25, maybe $20 per card. And if they do that, they're blowing guys like these out of the water. And I just don't know how they come back. So we will see what happens moving forward, but I'm not overtly optimistic about kind of the direction they're going. So that's that. Share a little bit about us, where we're at. So Graded Investors been doing really, really well. Congratulations, guys. We hit 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel. That's because of you guys. We appreciate you guys so much engaging with the videos, coming out, watching, dropping your likes, commenting with us. Whether we're doing giveaways or the breaks or whatever we're doing, you guys are always around. You're always checking out the videos. You guys send me messages. I appreciate the heck out of it. You guys are awesome. So at 1,000 subscribers, we said we're going to do a big giveaway. So this week, I'm going to put together the giveaway. I plan to release it Friday morning. So Friday morning, we'll say 10 a.m., right? Let's mark that down. Friday morning, 10 a.m. Pacific, we will drop a video saying what we're giving away for hitting 1,000 subscribers. I believe it's going to be right around 500 plus in value. I plan to be giving away a jersey minimum. We're going to give away some break credit. We're going to give away some boxes of cards, right? And then we've also got some other giveaways, but I'll put that all together. And my plan is that on that video, you guys will drop a comment. That puts you in to win. And then we're going to use a comment picker to pull the winner. And so let's say we pull Jen. Congratulations, Jen, you won. And then we'll have a wheel of prizes, and Jen will win whatever prize she lands on, right? At which point I'll reach out. You give me your email address and your address, and I will email you the tracking number and ship that out to you at our cost. We appreciate you guys being a part of our journey. Man, I can only imagine where we're going to go from now. In fact, with our Facebook group, man, we're up to like 490. And I said at 500, we were going to do another break. And so I will put together a complimentary break where we will put in, about 30 members. And those 30 members will get a chance to be in a complimentary break on us. And the last break we did was around, I think it was around $400 value. So this one will be closer to $800 value. So we appreciate you guys being a part of it, being a part of our group, being a part of our community. More giveaways to come in the future as we continue to grow. Appreciate you guys taking the time. Let's jump into the second part of this video. So we all know or have heard to some degree or another, right, that Fanatics is taking over the industry. Now, what does that look like? What does that mean? Man, I have no idea, right? People think Panini's going away. They're not going away, right? I don't think Panini is going away. Is there a small chance Fanatic buys them? I mean, maybe. But Panini's pretty expensive. And Fanatics already has a deal in principle with Topps, which is kind of exciting for me because that means we're going to see Topps Chrome, basketball, football, obviously still baseball. So if Fanatics holds up with all of the deals they've signed, which it's tough to think they won't if Panini was able to hold up with their 2 deals. They're only adding 1 more deal. But Panini's still going to put out WWE, racing, all the other stuff Panini does. Plus, they'll still put off their unlicensed stuff, right? We're still going to have unlicensed Panini products coming out. But either way, we had Sports Card Investors put out a video where they interviewed Josh Luber, who is with Fanatics, and he's going to be running the card aspect of Fanatics. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to check out the video. It's a little bit of a longer video. I don't know how deep we'll go into it. I just want to give you guys a good idea of what I watched before, and I'll comment on it periodically, just kind of throw some of my opinion in there. Appreciate you guys checking out the video. Let's just jump into it.
Let's hear that interview with Josh Luber, the head of Fanatics new trading card venture. All right, everybody, I am joined now by an extremely important guest. Let's welcome Josh Luber, the founder of StockX, but also now the Chief Vision Officer for Fanatics venture into the trading card world. Josh, welcome to...
So first things first, this guy's got a great name. I think he's going to be successful, right? Anybody named Josh, pretty good guy. Got to like him right off the bat. But you guys heard he started StockX. He's one of the guys who started StockX. So I don't know, man. StockX did a really, really good job. And they definitely did a really solid job of balancing between consumer and seller. So just my opinion, but I think StockX is a pretty good business model. So it'll be interesting to see how some of what he did with StockX will apply to what he's going to do with Fanatics.
It's amazing.
Now you had, when I've talked to you in the past on this show, you've had an incredible sneaker room, but you moved, right? You had to move away from that unbelievable sneaker room you had.
It takes a process to get it back. Right, so we're getting there. I got shelves. Nothing on the shelves yet, but we're getting there. So eventually,
one step at a time.
Yep.
One step at a time. Cool, awesome. Well, is the new room though? Is it going to be just sneakers, or are you going to work cards into that as well?
Yeah, when I built the sneaker room last time was 2015, and I hadn't gotten back into cards at the time. So no, the new room will look way different. Think of it more like part Foot Locker, part bank vault.
Cool. Awesome. Well, we are excited to see it. Well, when we have you back on next, you'll have to give us a little tour of it.
Absolutely.
But in the meantime, I know everyone in the audience is incredibly excited to hear about all of Fanatics' detailed plans. And I know you're about to lay them out, Josh. You're going to give us every plan Fanatics has for the next 10 years. Tell us all of the secrets.
I actually brought the board deck. I figured, why not? Let's just share the entire.
So this is one thing that kind of annoys me about Sports Card Collector, and I apologize, this is just an opinion. But he thinks he's way funnier than he is, right? Fanatics, you're going to share your 10-year plan here in the next 10 minutes with us. Dad jokes.
Entire board deck. No, look, it's an extraordinary position to be in, and unbelievably, thankful that that I could do this. This is why I left StockX to work with Michael Rubin and Fanatics and try to put this together. Obviously, it's a process. We don't, as everybody knows, the new entity, which is majority owned by Fanatics, but also partly owned by some of the leagues and players associations, but is a.
So what he said right there is part of the reason why Fanatics has taken over. So they gave in the deal, not only did they pay the MLB, they paid the NFL, they paid the NBA for the license. They also gave a percentage of their business, as far as I understand, in perpetuity, which means forever, right? They've given a piece of the business to the Players Association, right? And so that kind of sort of puts them all in bed together, to where if Fanatics is successful, they get to see the benefits. He's going to dive into this a little bit more, but it's something to keep in mind that the players have a vested interest now in Fanatics doing well. What does that mean? I'm hoping it means that we get our autos that we're supposed to get, because the players know that, a part of their money gets paid for by this deal, but we'll see how that all goes.
Separate company. It is not Fanatics. It is a separate company. as most people know, we've acquired licenses for baseball, basketball, and football, but we don't yet run those businesses. And until we do run those businesses, which could happen in a number of different ways, in a number of different time frames, it could happen very quickly. It could take quite some time.
So we know now that they've made a deal to buy Topps. So he's alluding to that here, and I'm sure that they've been working the deal for a while. But it is very feasible that Fanatics will be selling Topps baseball maybe middle of this year. So we'll see what happens. Middle of this baseball season is what I mean. So
until we do, there's really not that much to talk about. There's really not that much to look at the highest level. I do want to say, though, that when we do take control of those and we do start operating them, this will be evolution, not revolution. We have some ideas, some big, some small, about how we will operate them and the ways that we will change the industry. But we're also cognizant of the fact that industry is doing pretty good for the past couple of years, and we don't want to mess that up. And there's a lot of people that love it, and the core of the industry is more important than the growth and the new people. But I think the new people and the growth is an extraordinary opportunity. And so that'll be the balance for us as.
So that really sounded like suit talk, right? The core of the industry is important, not the growth, but also the growth is really important. So here's what's interesting to me, and it's something that I think is broken about business, is that if you're not growing, you're dying. Right? So if you're not selling more and making more money year over year, then your business is imploding slowly over time. It's this weird thought process that exists. But at some point, every business has to hit kind of their ceiling, right? You've grown as much as you have. You've filled up all the space. At this point, there's just really nothing more. Sports cards isn't there yet. It's not even close. And the reason I say that is because, we do breaking here on the channel, and man, we got people in Europe breaking with us. We got people in Asia breaking with us. We actually have a couple people out of China, a couple people out of Japan that break with us, and we ship to international shippers, and then those international shippers ship to them. So there are people all over the world that want sports cards where they are. And Panini right now is doing some Asian versions of cards, but there's not a whole lot of European football being sold. And I don't mean soccer, I mean American football. So there is a ton of growth worldwide because there are fans of every sport in America worldwide. We even do some breaks with people out of South America, but it's one of those things where I think that if they're not concerned with strictly the United States and making sure that they offer a better product to Americans, that the worldwide growth isn't nearly as important, because in America, that there's football fans in every city. Worldwide, you have to find the football fan in the city, if that makes sense. So
we get into operating the business is, how do we grow the whole industry? How do we bring all these people in? But understand what's important and the core and the people that have got us here.
And I'm fascinated to ask you about some of this. And I know, we're going to talk about some of your philosophies here, not necessarily Fanatics specific plans, because I know, as you've said, that's a lot of that is still pending on when all this is going to start and everything like that. But you put a lot of your thoughts and philosophies out to the world fairly recently with your report that you released. Trading cards are cool again. You published that to the web. When I first, you had texted me the link when you put it out, and I clicked on the link, and at first I was expecting, to see like a one paragraph or one page essay, and instead it was a 50 plus pages of a extremely detailed deep dive into the history of the sports card market, but also more importantly, the factors that you think influence prices and demand and all of that. I thought it was fascinating. And of course, it gives us an insight into how you're thinking and how you may be thinking in your terms of approach in the future. So I want to talk through a few of those concepts. One concept that you repeated consistently throughout the article was supply and demand. And you made the point early that the times when the hobby has gone into crisis before is when supply far exceeded demand. And demand, for the most part, has exceeded supply the last few years, although there's maybe some signs that in certain parts of the hobby, maybe supply is getting a little too big with printing and base card runs, or the number of kind of parallels and refractors. Talk to me a little bit about your thoughts on supply.
So real quick, before he jumps into sharing what he thinks and why. So I do not personally believe supply is exceeding demand. And the reason I'm saying that is because any product that hits the shelf should have a 90-day shelf life, right? Meaning if you can sell through within 90 days, so anything that hits the shelf, you sell through within 90 days, there's nothing else there. You have to bring in new product because that product is gone. That's a good product from a business standpoint, right? If you're selling through a product in 90 days, that's incredible. That's a great turn. On the flip side, you look at like car dealerships and stuff. I mean, it's up to 120, right? 120 days, 150 days before they sell through, because that's why you see cars. It's a 2022, but it's 2023, and we got to sell the 2022 still. When is the last time you've seen cards at your local Target, Walmart, or anywhere last on the shelves for more than a week? Are there too many base cards? Sure, they're not worth a lot of money, right? But a box of cards, right? I've got boxes all over here. We'll use a Topps 2022 Fat Pack. If this is on the shelf at your Target, let's say there's 10 of them. How many days do they last? 1, 3? It doesn't last a week, I promise you that. So if cards are not lasting on the shelf for more than a week, are we really in a situation where there's overprinting? Not really. From a business standpoint, right? I'm not talking about from a collectible standpoint. I'm saying strictly from a business standpoint, if it sells out within a week, are we in a position where it's overprinted? Not really, right? The consumer demand is higher than the supply if it's selling out within a week all the time, constantly.
Supply and demand, and how you would like to see that be better managed in the future.
Yeah, it's core to everything. I mean, the supply and demand and managing that and the balance is the whole thing. And as I was writing that piece, and it's worth noting that those are my thoughts. Anything in there is me. It's not a Fanatics level statement. It's not a Fanatics trading cards publication, but everyone was very aware that I was doing that, and so for whatever that's worth. But the supply and demand concept is what will determine how well this industry grows. As we were researching for the paper and writing it, you actually had a podcast about.
He said we. So I'm wondering who helped him write this. Anyway,
2020 Select. And the changes in 2020 Select versus 19 and 18 and previous years with regard to number of parallels and specifically. And it goes to show that you can have a lot of very rare cards and cards that are individually numbered low, but the overall supply is very high, and that doesn't mean anything, right? If you have, always sort of tongue in cheek, if you have a million 101s, then you have no 101s, right? If everything is unique, then nothing is unique. And it is for us to grow the business. And as I said before, like that is the goal, is to grow the entire industry, to grow everything. We have to figure out how to sell more cards, how to put more cards in the hands of people that want them without devaluing those cards. The long-term value of the cards is the most important driving factor as we create cards.
So here's where I understand the conundrum, but you also can't solve that process that he just had. So let me use one of these cards as an example. I think I've got something in here that's relatively low numbered, but we'll use the Genesis, right? So he says we want to put more cards in the hands of people. So they want to sell more cards. They want to make more profits, but they also understand that cards have to have value. So there's a belief that with the Genesis in 2021, right? So this is 2020, 2021, which, by the way, these Genesis are gorgeous, right? This is a gorgeous parallel. If you guys have not seen these or held one in your hand, they're beautiful, right? There's a print run of 50. That's the estimation, okay? So the reason why these cards have value is because if there are more than 50 people who want a particular player, say, for example, Zion. So let's say the base cost is $1, okay? If only 48 people want these cards and there's 50 of them available for $1, then you get it for $1 because there's enough, right? There's 50 of them, only 48 people want them, perfect. Everybody gets one. Everybody's happy. They paid the $1. Well, what he's talking about is keeping the values high. The only way to keep the values high is to have there be 300 people who want them and only 50 cards. Because then you have 6 people fighting over each card and only one of them gets it, right? This is basic math, basic business principles. So I understand what he's saying, but you have to understand that he can't give everybody a card. Everybody can't have the Genesis. Everyone can't have the LaMelo Ball Genesis. Everybody can't have the Ant-Man Genesis because then they're not worth anything. So when he's saying putting more cards into people's hands, what I believe he's implying is we're going to have more of the base cards, right? And this isn't a base. I'm trying to find a base here, and I have mostly inserts in this pile. But yeah, so more of the base cards into people's hands, making the base almost worthless. And less of the harder to find cards. That's the only thing I can come up with. But he does dive here in a little bit into also different sets and having certain sets have more value and then certain sets be printed so that kids can have them.
Doesn't mean that every card is going to be valuable. Doesn't mean that every card is going to increase in value over time. But more often than not, you can't have people buying boxes, buying cards, and it being worth less than they paid consistently, not ongoing over time. Now, we all know that opening up boxes of cards, you're usually expected to lose on that. Your ROI is usually going to be negative because we're trying to chase those hits. We're trying to chase those parallels. But if the parallels themselves are not also valuable and hold their value, then you start to get into a very, very dangerous territory. There's not an easy solution to this, by the way. And sneaker industry has run into this. Trading card industry has been dealing with this for years. And it's just more of an idea that you have to keep that philosophy in mind as you're growing. But what's really interesting about the trading card industry generally is across the 3 major sports, you have about 40 to 50 sets per year. It gives a lot of different levers to create a lot of different supply levels, a lot of different quality levels, a lot of different channels that you can distribute it. So there's a lot of stuff to play with to try to get that right and make sure that on par overall, that the value does maintain in a long term. And that's the important thing.
Yeah, and I love that philosophically. I mean, one thing that I wish that the current card manufacturers would do a little bit of a better job at is be more transparent about which sets are their higher end chase sets and which sets are more for the everyday hobbyist, and just be transparent about it. And then within those higher end chase sets, make sure to preserve the value. I felt like with Select, for example, and I said that in that podcast you're referring to, I felt like Panini took Select in previous years from being a very exclusive, high-end, hobby shop only set that was very desirable to an investor like me. And they took it down to the level of being a just, mass printed, available everywhere, crazy number of variations available. And I hated to see it, right? And so, I mean, do you think in the future that type of segmentation, is that the way that we can keep the price of some products low enough to make it attainable for kids and make it attainable for people who want to buy a cheap box just to rip, but at the same time preserve the value of cards for those who look at it as an investment?
Right. I mean, you're exactly right in terms of what happened to Select. Highest level, it went from a hobby product to a retail product, right? And that has a massive impact on everything related to it, including, right, perhaps the value of your previous Select cards that you've bought, which is a shot in the arm to a lot of people that have invested money in that.
Here's my argument on the flip side, right? So I never dabbled in Select until it went to retail. to be transparent, mostly I bought retail up till the last year or so, right? Only recently have I started jumping more into hobby because I do see the value in hobby, but hobby's just been so much more expensive than retail that retail I just got more bang for my buck and I could still get some cool cards, right? But how many people never paid attention to and never bought Select and now will buy Select? Now, mind, I understand the thought process. Maybe they don't understand the value of the older Select cards because you have cards like this AJ Brown where that was only available as a hobby product, right? And I go, sure, absolutely, right? But if you get enough people interested, again, you have that supply and demand, right? If 300 people want the 50 cards that are available, they're going to fight over them, right? And that causes prices to go up. Not literally fight, but you get what I'm saying. They bid over each other, snipe each other in auctions, things like this. So I'm not saying that's important, but I am saying that more people are paying attention to Select and more people consider it to be, a top 5 to 6 product every year versus what it was before, which was kind of an elite product only ripped by hobby shop people who buy hobby, and the majority of collectors never really knew about it. And it's funny to me that people complain about Select being printed that way, and yet I go, Prism is the number one product. No one's confused about it. It is the number one product, and it's both. Right? Now, mind, people do National Treasures, things like that, but those are considered nosebleed products, right? They're very, very expensive. But everyone buys Prism. Everyone loves Prism rookies. Everyone loves the Prism colors. And people know the difference between Prism retail and Prism hobby. And there's not any confusion about that.
Transparency is everything. And I have this idea, I don't know if it's possible, but I have this idea that we should be transparent into production numbers across the board. We should tell everybody how many of every product that is created. I don't know if that's possible for a lot of different reasons. Sneaker companies do it on some very select shoes, but generally they don't. Trading cards do it for some very select sets, and generally they don't. I think the market is smart enough to handle that information. Maybe the initial shock of it, it has some implications, but I think over time the market is smart enough to handle that information, and then it's all there out in the open for people to understand that, hey, this is a high-end product, it's premium, there's more chase elements, it's less supply, this is more populous, and it should be on the shelves at Target. And if you do that, if you know the delta between how much is printed of a hobby product versus a retail product, people aren't going to clear off the shelves of that retail product at Target. They're going to let it sit there and let the kid go buy it because they recognize that the value is way more. I should spend my time trying to buy the hobby product or something different, right? Like, the idea is, if you have a holistic strategy, supply and demand across all the products, there should be high-end stuff that sells for big dollars, but there should also be product that is always available for anybody who wants to go buy a pack of cards for $1, or for that proverbial kid to go in and walk into Target or Walmart or his local convenience store and buy a pack of cards. And by the way, we want cards everywhere. I want to have cards. People are concerned that hobby shops won't get cards. I want first of all 10 times as many hobby shops, and I want to have trading cards in convenience stores and baseball games, and like, there should be trading cards everywhere. But back to the point, people should know what it is they're looking after. And if it encourages those resellers and the investors to stay away from the stuff that has massive volume, great, let the kid go buy that.
That is, Josh, the greatest thing I've heard you say. If you are able to do that with Fanatics, and I know this isn't any type of official plan you're giving us today, but if you're able to bring transparency to print runs, and have, the products segmented so that they are available for the kids who want to get in for $1 a pack, but there's also the higher end products with.
Let me ask you guys that question. Do you like the idea of knowing exactly how many boxes of everything, or at least in some range? And let me put it to you this way. So with Topps, let me grab Topps product here. So with Topps, they break down here the chances of hitting, right? And so if you know how many, for example, of a chrome black, it's out of 20, right? And so you could just do the math and go, hey, there's 400 cards in the set out of 20s, right? So 400 times 20, 8,000. and you can multiply it by 11,200 and have a really good idea of how many boxes that they've made. Do you guys like that idea? Do you think that idea changes the way that you collect or the hobby at all for you? Just curious. Let me know in the comments down below.
Very transparent print runs. You will have collectors and investors universally worshiping you and Fanatics for doing that, because that is one of the biggest complaints I hear every single day, and it is a complaint that I feel about the lack of transparency around how much of this stuff is actually being printed. And, and even on a set level, how do we know what this set is worth this, versus this thing? Do we understand the print run dynamics? It's all very cloak and dagger right now.
Yeah.
So I'm thrilled to hear that you are thinking in terms of transparency. And I know, one of the things you did at StockX, which I thought was awesome. I thought it was the best thing StockX did when it came to trading cards, was the IPO that you guys did with that Bowman Chrome X product. You guys ran a Dutch auction, but you did it for a release of a new set, but you did it in a very fair, consumer-friendly way. And then, Panini started, after you did that, Panini started running Dutch auctions for the drop of new products on their site, but they did it differently. Yeah. They did it in a way that whatever price you bid was the price you paid. And unfortunately, that screwed a large percentage of the people who were buying products, because you're overpaying, because you don't know when to jump in because it's not transparent.
That's right.
In your case, you allowed people to place a bid at whatever they were comfortable paying, but whatever it actually ended up going for, everyone paid that lowest price that it went for. So it had this amazing effect of everybody feeling like they got a good deal.
So this is good and bad. So if you guys haven't experienced the Dutch auctions, he explained it pretty well, but basically you get to decide where you want to buy from, and it goes down by a certain amount every 5 minutes, right? And so whoever buys the very last little bit at the lowest number, they got the best deal, and you pay whatever you decide. So there have been products that start out at $2,000 and they bottom out at $750, right? And so some people get frustrated because they go, well, yeah, I paid substantially more than the $750 it bottomed out for. And I go, well, yeah, sure, but you got it. You did what you were comfortable with. But here's the downside for the way that he did it, right? So everybody pays whatever the bottom number is. What happens is people just start triggering. They just start buying. And then it's going to sell out faster his way. And so everybody pays a little bit more versus Panini, where the money is spread out over a range. So is his way better or is Panini's? It would be interesting to know the numbers behind the scenes, but I'd be willing to bet that the way he does it makes more money more consistently. The way Panini does it, there are going to be certain products where it's going to lever down pretty hard. It's going to get pretty low before it sells out, and we've seen that with a few of their products. But if you know that you're just going to get it for the cheapest, it doesn't matter, then there's not a bunch of people holding out. There's a bunch of people just saying, hey, I'll go ahead and buy, and I'll just let it end wherever it ends, and I know everybody paid the same. And so it may sell out faster.
That's right. I'm really glad that you brought that up. It's one of my most favorite things and in passion. This is the continuing vision from day one at StockX through me leaving and why I'm in this industry. I think that using true market pricing, which can only be accomplished a couple ways, and my belief is the best way to do that is by using what's called a blind Dutch auction. What Panini uses is called a declining Dutch auction. Obviously, these are confusing terms that most people don't encounter on a daily basis. But in a blind Dutch auction, everybody pays the same price. And by the way, over 95% of the people end up paying a price less than what they bid. So even though that price ends up usually being much more than what the retail price would have been, because these are usually products that have high demand, so people want to buy this product.
Much more than retail, but less than you bid. I mean, come on, you're still paying a profit, a bigger profit than normal.
Everybody wins. Everybody wins. They get it for less than what they bid or exactly what they bid, but they all pay the same price, and you're buying the same asset at the exact same time. It's completely illogical for people to pay a different price for the same widget at the same moment. Panini's, declining Dutch auction, it's fun. There's an engagement level, I guess, but except for that last person, everybody kind of loses, right? Everybody got it. Everybody paid more than somebody else. Panini makes more money that way, frankly. I don't like, I'm just very against it. I think it's a really poor way to sell cards. And so that idea, the what we did, that the Bowman Chrome X release with StockX and Topps back then, that was a huge impetus for this entire move, for me to move into the trading card industry and do this. And we will absolutely use that method to sell.
Again, I'd love to hear the way he described this to Topps, because I think he got Topps more money than they would have gotten in a declining auction, right? Because the other thing that maybe it's kind of shadow, he's not going to talk about it, but it definitely exists. So there are people who can hack the system and let you know approximately how much of the stock has been sold. And so there are actually groups that monitor it and let you know that, hey, it looks like about 70% of the stock is sold. You better start putting in your orders because this is about to run out. In the way that he's describing it, which is a blind auction, and you just jump in and you say, hey, I want 10 boxes and I'll pay $800 a box, you're going to get it for whatever the lowest is they agree. So they have 4,000 boxes. They're going to sell all 4,000 for whatever the last guy is in. So let's say somebody said $750 a box. One guy said $745 a box. The guy at $745 is cut out. Everybody pays $750, right? But that's going to make people bid a little bit more to, again, ensure that they're in. Whereas on the flip side, more people are going to be holding out as long as they can and waiting until the last second to jump in. There's no way to know unless you could run the same product the same year, basically on top of each other with the same buyers, which is virtually impossible. But I do believe that he gets as much money or more than Panini the way that he's suggesting doing it. But it feels more fair because everybody pays the same price. So it's relative.
Some cards, there's no way that you sell all cards that way. There's no way that you sell all products that way. But again, to my earlier point, if you have a holistic distribution strategy across all different products, all different channels, then you can have very high demand premium products that are sold as a blind Dutch auction and are released at a fair market price, and it's fair for everybody. And then you have other products that are retail and they sit on the shelf and they're always $1 or they're always, $10 or whatever it is. So it's an important part of the overall philosophy.
I do think it's funny that they keep talking about cards being $1 as if we're ever going to have packs of cards for $1 that aren't like 3 or 4 cards in a pack. Anyway, moving on.
Philosophy is to leverage blind Dutch auctions, which we call our IPO or initial product offering, to use those very strategically, probably across every single sport.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. As I said, I loved when you did it with StockX. I love that you're kind of beating the drum of transparency and fairness and fair market pricing. That is going to be so good. And one of the things I've said, Josh,
I personally hate fair. My kids will say, well, Dad, that's not fair. And I go, listen, a fair is where you go to ride rides and you give them tickets and maybe you get lucky and you have a few bucks and you get yourself an elephant ear, right? Fair is not real, right? There is not fairness or equality. There's just opportunity, and everyone should get equal opportunity, right? But at the end of the day, you got to make your own decisions. And so I don't have a problem with if they decide to do it that way, right? It's just a different way of doing business, but don't tell me it's more fair, because again, I'm just going to bid what I'm willing to pay. And if I don't get in, is that unfair? No, I should have paid more, right? And so with Panini, I go, listen, I still just take it for, but the difference with Panini is if I get in there, I know I get it. With his way, right? They're going to run it for a 24-hour, 12-hour period, whatever. I don't know if I'm in until the end. So I don't like that as much, just personally. I really don't. I would much rather go into Panini. And I bought, just recently, I bought Contenders first off the line. And I said, look, 725 is my number. So as soon as it hit 725, I bought a case. It ended up going down to 650. I don't care. I really don't. I don't feel like it's somebody unfairly got it at 650 when I paid 725. I was comfortable at 725. I knew that was a number I could work with. There's nothing else, right? Had I bid on it and I bid 725 and somehow someone got it at 650, which again, it's not going to happen on blind bids, right? People are always going to bid a little bit higher just to make sure they get it. That's the whole point. It's that fear of loss, right? Fear of missing out. FOMO. But both of them create it. It's just a question of which way they create it. And there's more equity in the way that he's saying it, right? Because everybody's going to get it at the same price, but that price point will be higher. Nobody's going to get a better deal. Everyone's going to get it higher than they could have gotten it if they'd been with Panini.
Josh, on this show repeatedly, people have asked, and I've commented about like my feelings about Fanatics and the Fanatics deal. And I said, if you look at the big picture here, we have a company in Fanatics that is placing a massive bet on the future of the sports card hobby. People who are far smarter than me, who deal with billions of dollars on a daily basis, are betting that in the future sports cards are going to be worth, the industry as a whole is going to be worth a huge multiple of where it is today. And if you just simply look at the numbers of what Fanatics put in, and then, the fact that people are investing at certain dollar levels in this venture, and then, of course, what those people might expect from a return on investment down the road, and you start to do that math out, you start to realize that the thought process of a lot of these investors is that this thing is going to grow light years beyond where it is today in terms of participation. And I think that those types of the transparency, the fair market approach, et cetera, are going to be the things that really help sustain this in the long run. But it's got to be difficult because I know, with it from the standpoint of the manufacturers, and I'm sure you're going to feel some of this pressure at Fanatics, you could make a quick buck today. You could pad your profit and loss statement this year by simply printing a little more product or using techniques like the declining Dutch auction to sell it, which isn't fair to everybody. Isn't that always just going to be?
Again, they keep banging on the fact that the declining Dutch auction makes a bunch more money. Shut up, right? Anybody who's out there who's bought from Fanatics, Fanatics sells all of their boxes of cards for $5 more than anyone else. Why are they taking the high road on this? Why are they acting like, well, everything we're doing, oh yeah, it's marketing. Sorry, I apologize. I forgot what was happening.
Be a crazy push and pull about like how are you preserving the long term and not just generating profit today?
Yeah. Look, I'm enormously thankful to Michael Rubin and Fanatics and our investors who have believed in me and my vision for how I want to run this and what I think is important for the growth of the hobby. But I'm also very aware that they've put a lot of money into this and a lot of their reputation and time as well. And it's important that the company is financially successful and stable. Like those are two not necessarily divergent, but sometimes create friction. Fanatics Trading Cards, the entity that we run, is a private company. There is no plans for it to be a public company. And hopefully that will enable us to have the flexibility that we need to make the changes in the short term and not have to be wed to short-term goals. We'll see how that plays out, but that's just it's the nature of business. It's a nature of running a company. That said, I wouldn't have done this if I didn't think that I had the buy-in of the people that matter to do this the right way. And for everything that I've seen so far, supports that. Like I said, they've been phenomenal, and I'm very grateful for them to at least so far to give us the freedom to set this up and run this the way we think is best.
That is awesome. That is awesome to hear. And having the sports leagues involved is another thing that I've been so excited about. Do you think they're going to be active participants in this? Do you think we could actually see like the NFL and I know you don't know for sure, things have to play out, but like, do you think the integration between the leagues and cards and the teams and the athletes and cards, do you expect that generally to get closer over time?
Yeah, I mean, frankly, it's kind of crazy that the leagues and PAs, the players associations, and for anyone who doesn't know, to create trading cards, you essentially need two licenses. You need the leagues, which gives you the right to do the league marks, and you need the players association, which gives you the right to have the players. As we know, Panini, for example, has a deal with the Major League Baseball Players Association, but not Major League Baseball. That's why you see Panini baseball cards that have no logos on them, right? It says Mike Trout, Los Angeles Baseball Club on them. It's their business. It's their business. We're just stewards of it for them. We're just the ones who operate it. It is their business. There would be no business if it wasn't.
So here's where he's coming from, like we're doing a good moral thing. This is the baseball player's business. Come on, dude. You're not taking the baseball player's business. Their business isn't sports cards, right? It's just like Marvel goes out and makes a movie and they crush it and it's an incredible movie, but McDonald's puts out toys. Marvel is not in the toy business, right? They are in the licensing business, because why wouldn't you license your likeness? Of course you would. You don't have to do anything to do that. You just need a lawyer, right? Hey, lawyer, go ahead and license my likeness. Have them pay us in perpetuity for using it, right? So I sometimes, like, I want to like Josh. He's great. Again, amazing first name. Love it. Amazing guy. But sometimes he takes these moral stances, like fair, right, wrong. And it's not about that, right? Back in the day, they didn't ask people for permission. They just slapped them on there. It's only because of laws that you had to, right? The whole reason why, and I'm forgetting the baseball card, but the original baseball cards came on cigarettes, right? You get a pack of cigarettes. On the inside would be your favorite player, and you go, oh my gosh, I got the guy I wanted, right? And it was just a way to sell more cigarettes. And one of the guys said, look, I don't want my likeness on cigarettes because kids are trying to buy cigarettes now because they want my card. So take it off, cancel it. And so they believe only 50 total packs of cigarettes were made, 50 or 100, something like this, with his likeness on them before he got them removed. So fast forward to today, and now these guys, there are laws in place that you cannot use their likeness without their permission. This is not their business. They're just protecting their image, and they're selling their image. Similar to what college students are now doing, right? A college athlete, the quarterback for Alabama, is making $1 million a year just walking onto campus because they've got a package of, all you got to do is sign a few things, show up at a few things, and he gets a pile of money. Is he in the business of selling his image? No, absolutely not. He's in the business of football. He's going to the University of Alabama to play football. Getting to sell his image is not a part of his business model. It just happens to be something he gets to do.
For Major League Baseball and Mike Trout. And so they should be owners in the business. Yes, it gives them, added incentive to work more closely with us, but they have to work closely with Topps and Panini today anyway.
Do they though? I mean, we all have known someone or sent them in ourselves to get an autograph on a card because we got a redemption. Okay. And so when he says the players have to work closely, I mean, they do, but do they? Right? The guys, you've seen the videos. If you haven't, I'll link some, put a comment. I'll link you a couple videos of players showing how many autographs they have to do and complaining about it, basically, right? But what they're offering now is now the players get a piece. Is it going to take away the complaining? Probably not completely, right? Because I can only imagine signing 10 or 15 or 20,000 autographs. Got to be annoying. It doesn't matter how much you're getting paid, right? At some point, your hand's going to get tired. At some point, you're going to ask your mother to sign Lulu for you. Nice job, Luca. So my point that I'm trying to make is this. Again, he's saying that they're coming from a moral imperative, right? We have to do this. It's theirs. They deserve it. And really, we're not doing anything different. You are 100% doing something different. You're trying to gas the players up and tell them that, hey, not only are you getting paid for this, but you own a piece of this business. Don't you want it to be successful? Hoping that means the players are going to do something different. But the fact is, the money that the players were getting before versus the money they're going to get now, it's probably not substantially different.
When you have all the thousands, tens of thousands of autographs that are done every year, the players associations help facilitate that. When same thing with regard to memorabilia and memorabilia cards and things that happen there. So either way, there's a very close relationship, and it just makes sense that they should.
Now, it may be easier to get, jerseys and things like this from them now that it's a part of the deal. But again, that's a minimal thing, right? I just took my shirt off, here you go, take it, right? I just took my shoes off, here you go, take it. So I don't know the answer. I don't know how things are going to go. I hope it means things go better. I hope it means more on-card autos. I hope it means less redemptions. But at the end of the day, these are 18, 19, 20, 21, 22-year-old young men coming into the NFL, the MLB, and basketball. I don't think they care that much. There's so much coming at them. Do you think they're really concerned about autographing cards? I don't think it's the number one thing. They're trying to make the team. They're trying to figure out how money works, right? I just got given this huge check. I got to figure out where to live. And I'm not saying that they're stupid. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying it's a lot, right? Like, can you remember being 19 or 20 and having to figure out how to pay bills? You don't know. You're ignorant to it. You probably haven't done it. And if they just came out of college, everything was taken care of. My wife works at a college, and I'm telling you, they have entire teams of people that take care of student athletes. And I'm not talking about, she doesn't work at USC where they're taking care of the football team. She works at a small college, still a huge college, 30,000 students, but small in the sense of the sports programs are small, and they have entire teams taking care of water polo team, the volleyball team, the sand volleyball team, the softball team, the baseball team, the basketball team, the football team, entire teams of people making sure that everything that they need is taken care of. And if they have a complaint, it actually gets listened to versus the average college student where they go, see if you can get people to protest. But with the sports teams, they can go right in and they go, yeah, no problem. We'll look into that for you. And they get it fixed. I worked there. I donated my time to help out as tech support at her college because I was looking for something to do for fun. It's a lot, man. They get a lot. They have their own private workspaces where they get computers and printers. We took care of all that. That was not available to the rest of the students. It was only available to student athletes. The students still had it, and the student athletes still had access to the library. They had their own private library. So student athletes coming out of college don't have all the information. They've been taken care of. So they got so much on their plate. Signing autographs is never going to be at the top of the list of things that they want to focus on coming into becoming a professional athlete.
We have a piece of the business. For us, having them as partners is great for a lot of reasons. But I don't think the customer will see too much difference because of that. By the way, the autograph issue between sticker autos and just the breadth of autos is another very challenging issue, right? Because everybody wants to have to get autograph hits, and everybody wants to have autographs in a lot of sets, but nobody likes sticker autos, and so there's challenges across the board. So the closer we can work with them behind the scenes, make that more efficient, make that more cost efficient, that just should be better for everybody from the consumer standpoint. But again, I don't think you're going to see a very big difference in the consumer experience because they're our partners, but it's the right thing to do.
Ladies and gentlemen, you just heard it here. Josh Luber just announced that sticker autos are permanently forever going away out of the sports card hobby. We will never have them again.
Yeah, Or we will put sticker autos in every pack, standalone, and you can do whatever you want with that. You can stick your Zion auto onto an Alex Caruso card. I tweeted that, and I think some people thought I was serious.
There you go. Look at that. Innovation already happening with Josh Luber in charge of the venture. Okay, I know we got to go here in a second. My producer is giving me a wrap this up signal, but this has been so fascinating. I got to ask you one or two more questions before we wrap. I'm curious, the sneaker market, which you had so much experience in, you had this quote in your Trading Cards Are Cool Again article about how everybody in the sneaker market says they want Nike to produce more of their limited print run shoes, but nobody actually means it. Tell me that, and tell me how that applies to your philosophy around trading cards.
Yeah, I mean, this gets back to transparency and hits and parallels, right? To reference back to the select conversation. I'm going to get the numbers slightly off here, but there were something like 30, 31 or 32 Anthony Edwards 101s in select this year, and I think there were 17 or 18 Zion Williams 101s, right? So going from 1 year to the next, the number of 101s in that set more than doubled. And that's crazy, right? And so, sure, more people can pull a 1 of 1, and that's exciting and that's great. But the value of those cards starts to decline because there's too many out there. And so, well, what do you want? Do consumers say, hey, I put more 1 of 1s in there because I want to hit them? Well, not really. What they really want is they want to be one of the lucky ones to hit the really valuable 1 of 1, the logo man or the prism black, the ones that are really valuable. And unfortunately, like, to have them be very valuable, they have to be very scarce. So this is the parallel issue across the board. Same thing with autographs and memorabilia hits, which is people say, or it would logically make sense that, hey, if we put more in there, then more people can hit them, and that's a good thing. It may not be, right? What people really want is to be the lucky ones to hit that 1 of 1, as opposed to hitting a 1 of 1 that is not worth anything.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I feel like, I mean, to be quite honest, I feel like the manufacturers right now are playing a little like rope-a-dope in the fact that they're trying to make you feel like, oh, I got this exclusive crazy card because you got this really rare parallel. Well, when there's 130 different parallels, then it's like, okay, great. That is a rare parallel, but how rare is getting a parallel then in general, right? So and again, it comes back to transparency, because we just don't fully know. We just don't fully know how many of these are out there. We don't fully understand the print runs. And so I love your thoughts and philosophy on all of that. All right, final question. A lot has been made about the fact that, there's been a lot of dealers. We've had dealers on this virtual holiday who have, they're concerned about what is this Fanatics, direct to consumer, all this kind of stuff. And I know, again, you're not going to reveal Fanatics specific plans here, but at the industry summit in Vegas, when you were on stage there, you spoke about the importance of card shops in the hobby, and also the importance of kind of the experience that goes along with that. And you referenced it earlier in our conversation just a little while ago. Why are card shops important to the ecosystem, and what do you want to see the card experience be like in the future?
Well, I'll tell you what, because he called me out the other today, right? Rob Veras over at Burbank has done a phenomenal job of creating an experience over there. I haven't been to the new location yet, but I've seen it online and gotten tours. It's creating a place that people want to go to, right? We're in a post-COVID internet world anyway. Like physical experiences have gone, whatever the numbers is, it's way down. I leave my house significantly less than I used to. I buy more online. I buy stuff on eBay. But man, like I can still feel what it was like. I can smell what it was like going to a card shop when I was a kid with my father, and the excitement of that, and the excitement of walking into the store. Like I can see the steps leading up to the card shop I used to go into. And that's why when I got back into the hobby in 2018, it was 0 to 100, right? Because it brought back that excitement and that memory. And look, card shows are phenomenal too, and I love the fact that there's more card shows that are happening. But as I mentioned earlier, there needs to be 10 times as many hobby shops, and they need to be palaces. They need to be museums. They need to be places where where kids want to go and spend time and hang out, because on the sneaker streetwear side, that doesn't happen anymore, right? And sorry, not sorry, right? Like StockX is partly responsible for that, but it's also because it's a much different market. But trading cards can still be that, because there's so many different things that you could be doing in there, whether you're collecting sets or whether you're breaking or whether you're discussing cards to have graded, or whether you're, and there's just knowledge and information that's needed to bring people into the hobby. There is friction of people coming into it. There is a disparity in knowledge. It isn't easy for a new person, kid or adult, to come into the hobby. And trading cards can be, hobby shops can be those schools, those bastions for people to come in there and do that. So I mean, it's massively important. And again, like, no promises, no idea where we'll get to on this, but I think that we should be supporting them. By the way, and I think the other big organizations in the hobby should be supporting hobby shops as well, and not just with product. Like, that's the easy way to say, you're now in charge of product, you should give hobby shops more product. It's not that easy, but maybe there's marketing co-op dollars, or maybe there's help with technology, right? And last point on this, there's got to be a way to have a better cadence of singles in hobby shops, right? Like, they live and die by wax or supplies, and singles is tough because if it's graded, and it's very easy to sell that stuff online, I get that. But there's something there, and I don't know what it is, because we haven't spent all that time there, but there's something there about, like, being able to walk in there and shop really interesting singles as well, which is, by the way, why I love going to card shows more than card shops today, because I buy more singles than wax. But these are all the things, like, I'm so passionate about it. Like, if I could recreate, like, that part of my childhood for everybody, this industry would be 100x of what it is.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And I know in your in your trading cards are cool again, you talked a lot about getting more people in, but it has to be a frictionless experience. You said once it becomes frictionless, once the marketplaces become frictionless, the ability to buy and sell, the ability to understand what you're getting into, once it becomes frictionless, that's when more and more people come in. And of course, a rising tide rises all boats. I 100% completely agree with that. Fascinating stuff. So many nuggets in that Trading Cards Are Cool Again report. For those of you out there who have not seen it, just Google Trading Cards Are Cool Again. You're going to see an incredible, philosophy, Josh's philosophy and thoughts on trading cards and an analysis of the recent market changes, all that kind of stuff. Josh, this has been wonderful. You have me excited about the future, and I cannot wait to have you leading the helm and seeing all these things play out. So, Josh, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the kind words, and thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Take care. Happy holidays.
You too.
Did you